Karmavir Jyoti, Professor Dr. R. Ganesan, earned his doctorate from the reputed IIT Delhi with a special focus on entrepreneurship development. He possesses more than 2 decades of research experience in the field of entrepreneurship and management. He has served in different academia ranging from deemed universities, engineering colleges, arts and science colleges, B schools, and international universities. He has more than 70 research contributions to his credit, which are published in refereed and indexed journals, books, book chapters, monographs, and conferences. He is a global author in women entrepreneurship, whose research papers are listed in Google Scholar and indexed in ISI, MLA citations, Scopus, EBSCO, ESOS, Goebbels Director, etc. He has authored 2 books on women entrepreneurship development and insurance management, which have been published at Germany. He is serving as editorial member and reviewer for numerous journals and possesses more than 18 years of editorial experience. He has edited more than 540 research articles to his credit, which includes his editorial experience across refereed and indexed journals, conferences, book chapters at national and international levels. He has hosted 3 refereed and indexed national conferences and 3 international conferences and conducted 39 faculty development programs focusing on research and development, research insights, research structuring, publication strategies, publication prospects, and entrepreneurship development programs at national and international levels. He has delivered more than 170 sessions on managerial skills, entrepreneurship, career development, employability skilled research insights, and publication strategies across the nation. In commemorating his laudable academic, research, and societal transformational services through upbringing entrepreneurship development, he has been conferred with the prestigious title Karmavir Jyoti by Indian Confederation of Non-Governmental Organizations, I-Congo, New Delhi in 2015. He is the recipient of PFLA Excellence Award for his outstanding service to education and entrepreneurs community from People First Leadership Academy, Bangalore, Karnataka in 2019. He has been conferred with Order of Eminence, the highest honor for his global contribution to research, teaching, and training in entrepreneurship development by the Presidium of NFED in its 10th National Teachers' Day Awards on 5th September 2019 at Coimbatore. He has been conferred with the prestigious MTC Global Distinguished Teacher Award in Entrepreneurship Development in the 9th World Edu Summit, organized by Management Teachers Consortium Global on 7th October 2019 at Bangalore, Karnataka. Currently, he is the founder and chairman of NFED and chair of NFED Business Facilitators Forum, Coimbatore. I now invite Professor Dr. Ganesan to deliver the first session, Entrepreneurship Development Orientation, Process and Initiation.
Good afternoon to all of you. So, if you talk about entrepreneurship development orientation and the process and initiation, you have to know about something about a definition which is in practice, which has been cited by the global authors, global practitioner like Peter F. Drucker, who was a legendary person in the field of innovation and entrepreneurship, who was the cause and effect of the GE to establish. GE, you all know, General Electric, to establish in across the world. So he has defined the entrepreneur is the one who always searches for change and responds to it and exploit it as an opportunity. We all have the skills. So who is searching for change, responds to it and grab it, exploits it as an opportunity, becomes an entrepreneur. This is what is a basic definition. Generally, you all know that the definition is entrepreneur is the one who makes profit out of risk taking. This is a general definition. But the finest traditional, or you can say the exact definition to be like this: the one who always searches for change and responds to it and exploit it as an opportunity. So how many of you have done this thing in your walks of life? Already you are having these enterprising skills, one or the other. Those who are not doing it, you can try for doing it. So how many people have searched for the change? How many people respond to the change and exploited it as an opportunity? Before you get into this orientation, you should know what is a vision, because the normal vision of a person will be different from an entrepreneurial vision. Entrepreneurial vision is always measured in many of the aspects. A normal vision can be, vision is always, you can say it is always like a skying. Wherever you go, the sky bends, but when you go to the place, the sky again expands. So vision is a never-ending process, but the mission is an intermittent process to achieve this vision across your walks of life. So when you talk about entrepreneurial vision, so what are the entrepreneurial vision for the legends who have already been entrepreneur across the globe? So you can talk about Michael Dell. There is always an opportunity to make difference. So making difference and making the people to undergo the difference is also an entrepreneurial vision. Talk about Narayana Murthy, one of the legends who was the cause and effect of building the empire like Infosys. He has told, aim high, act upon it. So we all follow aim high, we all have high aims. But one has to act upon the aims. That is very, very important. And the third one is, you all know about Dhirubhai Ambani, who is now the doyen of this entire India, and having the big empire on top-notch rich people across the world. A dream with conviction, think big, think different, and think ahead. You can always see these common things come on that say, aim high, think big, think different, think ahead. All those things talks about entrepreneurial vision. Normal vision is not going to have these things because we never think about making difference. We only have a vision of completing a task. Short-term vision, long-term vision, short-term goals, long-term goals, short-term vision, long-term vision. But entrepreneurial vision is always to create a sequence, a turbulence in the society, like the positive turbulence, positive effect across the society. That becomes an entrepreneurial vision. So that is, even if you're not Tata also to talk about Tata, who's the biggest doyen in the field of entrepreneurship, in the field of automotives particularly, and who has a vision to create a low cost car which can be affordable to all the people in India. You all know about Nano. So that's how the vision of the entrepreneur goes on like this, and it is never ending. If you talk about initiation, the initiation is a process. You all know what is initiation. One has to take a step forward, initiate. Entrepreneur, if you talk about enterprising or entrepreneurship skills, entrepreneurship attributes, the first and foremost thing comes into the picture is what is the step you are taking, a step zero you're going to take, and to go on to the step one. So step zero talks more about environmental awareness. Are you all aware about the environment what we are in today, with the policies, with the structure, with the governance, and with the environmental climatic conditions? So that is one thing to be very unique for the entrepreneurs, that they are well aware about the environment what they are in. So equally, the faculties are all knowing about the organizational climate or institutional climate, but they are not aware of this entrepreneurial climate. So entrepreneurial institution comes on with the environmental aspects. How much you are aware about environmental sequences, that much you are taking a stay ahead of times to become an entrepreneur. Second aspect of most important to the initiation process is self-management. Organizing oneself is the biggest challenge, but always entrepreneurs does. They are having a very higher order goals, higher order vision, unlike the normal vision. But for that, what you have to do, one has to have the self-management. Managing the self is the biggest task. And next is managing men. I think everybody will agree with me. Managing the self and managing men. So once you manage yourself, you can easily manage everything across your walks of life. Though it sounds spiritual or philosophical, but it is a practice, very, very important. How to become organized and do things. Because you can see our programs are all 140 minutes, 140 we are starting. Because I am not only an academician, I am an entrepreneur in the other way around. So I have to keep the time as a very strict structure to follow, because people are all waiting for me. I can have some self-exigencies, but I cannot make the people to wait in this room who are all coming as a participant, who are all the dignitaries of today's program. So we are keeping the time. Self-management talks more about timely organizing yourself. The third one is self-motivation. Motivation is always, I cannot say that it's always external. Like happiness, you can talk about. You cannot be happy for with the external factors always. The happiness which is coming within makes you into a state of mind to do so many things, so many wonders, so many processes. So self-motivation is again talking about the aspects of entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurs always they'll face all the success and failure together, and the failure comes, they have to be self-motivated. That is very important, because when the entrepreneur fail, the most important thing is what happens if the individual fails, they'll be patted by the people around. But for when the entrepreneur fails, it's not easy, because they have to answer to so many corners, to the vendors, to the money lenders, so many corners they have to answer. So if they fail, they become collapse. So the motivation aspect of an entrepreneur is very, very important. That's why they should have self-motivation. The last one is self-barrier. The barriers they have to overcome. Barrier comes on with some effect of psychology, because whenever you talk about the barriers are all, We cannot say the barriers to be in general talking about financial barriers or social barriers, all those things. I believe that the barrier is in your own self. We are having our own barriers to come up. As a faculty, as a teacher, we are having our own barriers to talk about something new in the class. We are all following the curriculum stream. We all agree with that. How to handle the class in a different way, in a different pedagogic style. So how many faculties are doing that? They are already into enterprising walks of life. So that talks about the barrier. So the barrier comes for the entrepreneur in the different domain, but most often what we believe as practitioners, and there are so many researchers have been conducted in the field of entrepreneurship, talks about the self barrier is the biggest barrier for emerging out of for an entrepreneur to emerge from any situation or to emerge as an entrepreneur itself. So this is the thing, and we are going to deal with this in one by one. Environmental awareness talks more about the scenario what we are in. Population as one scenario, enterprise as other scenario, environment as the third scenario. Even within the environmental awareness, we have an environment. That is entrepreneurial environment, what we are in. Population talks more about 50% is youth driven today. India is having approximately 1.3 billion population. So when you talk about 50% is 65 crores. Out of that 50% population, you can talk about this up to 40 years is youth. If you talk about youth as a category of international standards, it's up to 40 years. So 50% population is a very big number. 65 crores are falling under this youth category, and out of which almost one third are falling under the category of you can talk about the youth population exactly in our own terminologies in Indian climatic condition. That is from 12 years to the class of 22 years, 23 years, or 25 years. So 30% out of the 65 crores talks about approximately 18 crores, 18 to 20 crores. So this is the population, which is a very big population. That's why India is going to be a very powerful nation in the future. That's what we are many foretellers or many scientists have been claiming. Many government is also claiming on this particular line and focusing on. That is why is attention of international market towards India because of this voluminous youth-driven population. That is one. Second one is the enterprise today is totally service demands are very high. That is why you can see a lot of online portals like Flipkart, Amazon are making a lot of business today, basically because of the service demands. So enterprise today is only focusing on service demands. How much you are going to give service quality when the demand arises. So what sort of enterprise you ought to check in? What sort of enterprise is possible? What sort of entrepreneurs can emerge? So those things will come into the picture if we talk about enterprise demands. The third one is environmental. Environmental talks about digital focus. Now, in the pandemic or before pre-pandemic state also, the focus is coming on digital. That is why we kept a separate session for social media marketing and digital transformation also. So the environment focus is total digital means you have to be very much aware about the online things what's happening. Now already almost in the pandemic scenario, all into the online classes. The online classes, one side is plus, we have to sit in home, the other side is minus, you have to be for long hours than live classes. So that is what you are adapting to the environment as digital environment is now existing. And that's going to be for another decade also, or more than that also. And totally people don't want to go into the live focus. Live environment is now getting diminished a while, and it is going to be 30% or 40%, and remaining 60 to 70% will be online. So this environment is entrepreneurs are to understand, and faculties like who are all teaching this entrepreneurship also to understand how to make this culture to possibly nurture among the students. The second one is career option. Career option, the previous stage is something different. Private sector employment, still today, all the campus interviews are happening, and we are all doing these placement activities. We are all engaged in these sort of activities. The output is to go in proportion to the input, what is going to happen in admission in a particular college or university. That is usual routine. The second one is self-employment. That is the routine which is not happening in a college. That is why TBAs are all coming into the forum to foster the self-employment notion, finally to get into an entrepreneurship. That is technology business incubators, giving some seed money to the students to motivate them to become an entrepreneur and to foster the entrepreneur cult across the varsities across the affiliate colleges. That's why the TBI, also OTBI is also into the operation. So the career option is not people can only focus on private sector. I am not highlighting any government sector because it is having its own modus operandi. Self-employment possibilities are there, and becoming an entrepreneur also is possible. So career option is also the one has to be environmental aware about the career options, and these things have to be periodically highlighted to the students. When you highlight to the students, you should be an enterprising level to talk about these things. That is why this OTBI and NFID, NBFF is taking a stride to do this sort of a program. So why entrepreneurship? This is what is a question maybe arising in all your minds. So the guaranteed career or mechanized career. Mechanized means a stereotypic career. That is after the college gets completed, they are getting into a job through placement activities or off campus activities. They're getting into placement with the social values, social respect, and expected remuneration within time is beyond imagination now. We can see the placement possibilities are all decreasing in the recent years. Like I can say last 1 decade, we can talk about. It's not a pandemic effect. Before pandemic, also the same thing. So it's decreasing. The problem is updation is not happening. The students are also not equipped with sort of a enterprising skills to get into the placement, because one side of this program is focusing on fostering or promulgating entrepreneurship and inspiring the researchers to go for the startup activities. The other side is becoming enterprising, get into your job. If the faculties are enterprising, they can teach the enterprising qualities to the students. In a way, the students will be enterprising to get into their aspiring career. They can configure their aspiring career because it's not a job, it is a career. Job you can get, but even for the job also you need some job competence, some entrepreneurial skills is required to talk in the job to make the job happen. But it is not so easy as the way people think. That's why the last 1 decade, you can take any colleges for that matter, except the top-notch institutions, tier 1 colleges. All the other colleges are not doing well in the placement domain. That is why placement officer is appointed in all the colleges. So they accept few sectors due to FT competition due with the population growth, which necessitated the entrepreneurial prospect in the recent years. That is why entrepreneurship will become this way to yield the success. So now the third one is the socioeconomic scenario and impact. So you all know this impact. If we talk about impact, pre-pandemic, that's what in resonance with the previous slide and continuing this slide, pre-pandemic, talking about the pre-pandemic scenario without before pandemic, what happened? Whether the same thing is existing or not. And pandemic. In the pandemic, it's so tedious for all of us to think about completing only the courses. So pandemic scenario is talking more about online portals, online classes, online evaluations, online degrees also is issued. So many things have happened. So socioeconomic scenario and the impact is coming on the pre-pandemic, pandemic, and now we are in the post-pandemic. We are just in the verge of entering the post-pandemic scenario because vaccine has already come. So post-pandemic scenario, what will happen? Because already the people have been groomed in the online portals. And when you go to the live programs, how they will listen. So this is again a challenge. So the question is, a suggestion is you can talk about the orienting the people on towards the pandemic scenarios and talking about the impact. So what sort of impact will be there? How these things will be more useful for them to gauge their talents and get into their aspirations. That's what we have to talk about to the students. That is very important when you talk about it, because we never talk about the pandemic scenario. We all talk about so many programs on the COVID-19 and all it has happened. But what we are talking is we are not talking addressing the what is will be the future of this pandemic, post-pandemic levels. Whether it will be the any live programs, any possibilities of career development, any possibilities to get into the hiring on the aspirations what you are having to the students. So how are we going to do that? So that talks about the scenario and the impact is so high. Post-pandemic effect will be for another 3-4 years for sure. So that is one thing to know, to talk about to the students what is the importance of entrepreneurship today. So coming to the self-management, as I told about self-management, self-management is about finding the self-control and mastery needed to take control of one's work. Example, to manage one's time, workflow, and communication. That is very tedious. To manage one's time, workflow, and communication. So self-management talks about self-control and mastery. When I talk about self-control and mastery, there are so many methods and process. The one best process which I find myself, which I used to do in my childhood and all, sitting in a place and keeping quiet for at least 600 seconds. Whether you can do it for as an exercise for a long time or not, it's a practice. You can try. It's not yoga practice or something like that. It's not philosophical. It is possible practice, because 10 minutes without deviation, 10 minutes with the deviation also you can do that. Because there's so many deviations, interventions happening across you. Your eyes open, eyes closed. Somewhere you can feel that you can do this. Actually, the practice is for more number of time. That is actually for many of half an hour or so. So that thing talks about how you going to have a control on the issue. So about finding the self control and master need to take control of one's work. If your self management is configured, if you are very good in self management, then you can able to do anything in this world. That is, the time is managed, the self is organized, the brain is totally under the control, and you can do multitasking. So those are the things which is an attribute for the entrepreneur itself. Self management is one of the practices for emerging as an entrepreneur or emerging as an enterprising personality in your respective domain. The third one is self motivation. As I told you, self motivation is inspiration between the behavior and action. As I told you earlier, happiness is not external, happiness is always internal. How to keep yourself happy? That is very important. How you can be happy? By doing what? If you do everything on time and complete all your tasks on time, somewhere you feel a sort of happiness and relieving. The mind is relieved that you have done the work for today. But how many people do that is the question mark. So the faculties are entangled with so many work. They are having a lot of academic administrative responsibilities. But the only thing is that how to keep this behavior and action on time. Because keeping an excuse and changing without changing a pattern will be you can say you are going to become succumb to the situation. Because every time we say busy, we are all busy, everybody is busy for that matter, everybody is having their time frame and where you can do the time. But the enterprising faculty always manages the time and gets the inspiration between the behavior and action. That's why I told you, when you do the behavior is verb. Behavior is the one thing which you possess already, some patterns. Genotypically, you are having some patterns. Attribution, entrepreneurship attribution, you have to develop some pattern, develop some traits or skills and action towards the traits. For example, if I have to give myself as an example, so when I want to do this sort of program in OTBA team has approached, we have been having a couple of meetings in the Zoom and on-time meetings, discussing all the things on point and keeping a LOA, keeping so many things on place, and making the flyer, keeping the schedule of the meetings. Everything we have completed. Now today we are all free that today the program is going to happen. So that is how it's a behavior. That is self-realized behavior. When you talk about entrepreneurs, entrepreneurs are highly self-realized. What they have to do. It's a Maslow's theory to take into account, that is self-actualization stage. The one who is self-realized can become actualized very easily. The one who is not self-realized are always wanting to see a cause and effect for whatever is happening to his or her own ways. They are not change the behavioral pattern, so they will not do the action on time. They will not get the inspiration. They'll always be with something called a dejection. So self-motivation is one of the important components for an entrepreneur, for an enterprising person to emerge. Self-motivation is important mechanism that helps reach the goal without external influence. That is very important. Without external influence, goal is one thing which you have to set for every day. Whether you do it, it's called a short-term goal. Within a week's time, within a fortnight, is a short-term goal. And how these goals are achieved? What are the things which you do for achieving these goals? So goal means what? You have to set a time. You have to set an objective. The object should be there, and they have to work on the objective. Before goal setting, what you have to do is you have to do a SWOT analysis. That's what I suggest to all the participants here. Do a personal and professional SWOT, because there are two SWOTs: strength, weakness, opportunity, and threats. Do's and don'ts also you can do, and do's minus don'ts is not equal to zero. So personal SWOT and professional SWOT. Professional strength, professional weakness, professional opportunities, professional threats. Personal strength, personal weakness, personal opportunity, personal threat. So always the strength and opportunities go together. The weakness and threats go together. At least you have to do this exercise for within a fortnight time, and you have to understand whether you can have the goal setting within you. If you always keep on adding the weaknesses towards yourself, and you are not finding your strength, that is a problem. That is why you cannot achieve the goal. So the orientation of an entrepreneur is always a person who always learn from failures, create an object, and achieve the object within the time and the goal is set and accomplished. That is how the entrepreneurs do. That's how even I have done today, because I am a social entrepreneur. I one side as an academician, another side as I am a social entrepreneur, and I am a person who is a mentor for so many entrepreneurs and inspiring individuals and students across. So I have to be the person to, with exemplification, to do these things. Despite of anything, you have to do the goal. Today's goal is to achieve this and start this meeting on time and do this work. Anything whichever you set for a time and doing it in a perfect way, that is a perfect start. The perfect start is a very important thing for the entrepreneur. Third one is self-motivation improves self-esteem and provides strength to achieve the goals. Self-motivation improves the self-esteem. Self-esteem is what? What is a self? How the efficacy is measured? What is the inner self? How the inner self can be, what's say, boosted and becomes esteem and keeping you to do the work, the drive to do the work, or the passion to do the work provides the strength to achieve the goal. That's what I'm saying. When the passion is triggered with this motivation, then automatically it can provide enough strength to achieve the goal. But these are all not the theories, these are all the practices, in fact. So that is why you put a diagram down, right? You can see the success start to end. So how to do that? How, what sort of, the step one is you have to take the initiation process. You have to do that. The formula for self-motivation is very simple. Values. We stand for values. How important something is to you. This you have to do the own exercise. There's no other way. E is expectation, because everybody has expectation today. The problem is expectation grows enormously high, but action goes enormously low. It is inversely proportional to everybody in most of the times, and that is why you cannot achieve that self-motivation. Expectation is how confident you are about achieving it. T is equal to the time, how time is utilized. That's very, very important. So self-motivation talks about how motivated you are when you multiply V into E into T. The SM stands for self-motivation. So how many people are doing these things? I don't know, because you have to take this formula and work out how important something is to you, professional, personal, how confident you are about achieving it. If we talk about FDP in a holistic sense, it is totally professional. Professionally, how the values are with you. Professionally, how the expectations are you're creating, how confident you are about achieving it, how the time is utilized. So coming to the self barrier, the fourth attribute of this initiation, entrepreneurship development orientation, initiation part only I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the process part. Process part will be followed. Self barrier. Self barrier talks more about parochialism. This is what I told you, the psychological aspect of an entrepreneur, because the NRI focus in which entrepreneurs see things only through their own eyes and from their own perspective. That leads to stereotypic action. That leads to disaster. The narrow focus in which entrepreneurs see things. Here, entrepreneurs means you are the faculty entrepreneurs, faculty enterprising resources. You always see the things only through your own eyes and from your own perspective, not seeing the other's perspective. But usually, the entrepreneurs have this sort of a disorder initially when they start immediately without an experience, without knowing what is entrepreneurship all about. They land up in this sort of a disorder. And because the disorders do happen with anybody, but entrepreneurs always think that they know many things. Whomsoever is inspiring to start the startups and to become an entrepreneur in future, they do this thing and the mistake happens, because if they're positively having this parochialism, that is fine. If they have negatively, they are having this inclined towards a stereotypic disorder, then it is disaster. That is what proactivism is required for entrepreneur, but it should not disturb the parochialistic nature. It should have a wider focus, not the narrow focus. So implication is all countries who have different values, morals, customs, political and socio-economic systems and laws, wherein all of which can affect our business to be managed and sustained. Because people are different. As you say, to today's scenario, students are all different. We don't know which student will catch up what you are saying. But how to become a holistic teacher in a class of 30 or 50, to talk about what is important to them and aligning this to the subject. The enterprising teacher always never takes a class as it is. Though the time is totally a formatted version of your time of 50 minutes or 1 hour, 15 minutes or whatever, the class is taken in a different way and related to the context of the class. That is what I'm saying. The self barrier is the biggest thing for an entrepreneur. Entrepreneur to emerge or enterprising uh, individual to emerge is basically an abstinence is the overcoming the self barrier with the paracalism as a nature, overcoming paracalism or overcoming the paracalistic behavior of the self to make an entrepreneur possible. So now come to the process of entrepreneurship, because so far I discussed with the initiation. Initiation is the foundation for to start up an activity or to become an entrepreneur or to become an enterprising individual. But process talks more about the perspectives of entrepreneurship to understand what are the skills, what are the perspectives. You know, if you are becoming an entrepreneur, what are the perspectives of an entrepreneur? Second one is creativity and innovation. What is a creativity? What is innovation? Third one is what are the challenges? Fourth one is what are the strategies? Because process as all those things, it's not very easy as the way you think about entrepreneurship. But once you master these things holistically, then it is possible. So perspectives of entrepreneurs or entrepreneurial perspectives. The difference between the entrepreneur and manager is very important. Manager is working under somebody. Entrepreneur is to be on his or her own. Manager has is a line of control. Entrepreneur has no line of control. So the question is, the entrepreneur is not an entrepreneur, a CEO or anybody who is working under the aegis of any enterprise or institution or a social organization. He's not an entrepreneur. That person is an entrepreneur. The entrepreneur is the one who's taking the lead, who's the person who's above the entrepreneur, who's running the enterprise becomes an entrepreneur. That's how some small definitions to know about the perspectives. Risk taking. The entrepreneurs always take a calculated risk to happen. They always measure the risk. This is what I am going to do, and these are the risks involved in the process. So taking a calculated risk taking abilities with the entrepreneurs. I'm talking about the experienced individuals who are going to have an enterprise. I'm not talking about the immediate first generation entrepreneur or immediately a person to become an entrepreneur. Entrepreneur to emerge is to have an experience in the domain areas or some experience in the professional area to know what is all about. Some interpersonal skills are required for becoming an entrepreneur. The second one is self-blaming. Whatever happens to the enterprise is all about the accountability is given to the entrepreneur. Entrepreneur is liable. But many times, whenever you do mistakes, we always blame the other environment. So self-blaming attitude is one of the important perspectives of an entrepreneur. And intuitive to situations. Intuitive. The entrepreneur is always intuitive. When you talk something to the entrepreneur is totally intuitive to react to the situation. Okay, these are the things you sold. Okay, these are the bottlenecks. These are the things which is possible. Something like intuition is always a segment or a trait within an entrepreneur. So they always quite intuitive to situation. Internal locus of control. So whatever happens to them, they account very big loss is happening in the enterprise. They only find to learn from failures. That is very important characteristic feature of an entrepreneur. Locus of control, internal locus of control is that whatever happens to the things within or without the influence of an entrepreneur, the entrepreneur accounts for himself or herself and taking the blame on his or herself and working for learning from the failures to become successful. That is one unique nature of an entrepreneur. Go getting, whatever they do, they have to go get. That means the go getting task is very important for entrepreneur, basically because they are having the good goal setting. When you set your goals properly, you can go and get things properly. When your goals are not uniform or goals are somewhat scattered or clumsy, then you cannot become an entrepreneur, because entrepreneurs have a definite goals. Third one is sixth one is attentiveness. Attentiveness is one of the unique characteristic feature of an entrepreneur. What's happening in this society? What's happening in the environment? What is the environment all about? What sort of people are there? Who are all our customers? What sort of market I am having? What sort of feasibility is possible for my particular product? What sort of service qualities other people are giving? In what way I can differ? What sort of social media networking I can do? So many things. The entrepreneur is to be quite attentive to situations. The pulse of the environment is to be very much aware to the entrepreneur. Seventh one is coping to the styles of the situation. That is like policies. the new economic policy, new educational policy. So many policies are framed in the government of India and across the globe also. So coping with the policies. So gauging or preparing the enterprise as a learning organization always to cope up with the time and again developments, and which is an intervention to the enterprise, how to overcome it. Persuasiveness, influencing people, art of influencing and part of getting things done. So go getting happens with influence also. It's not that always a negative influence, it's a positive influence. So going to the bank or going to the venture capitalist or going to the angel investors and proposing a project and getting the fund. That is basically based on a lot of things, but persuasion is also one of the characteristic feature of entrepreneur. Influencing the board, influencing the vendors, influencing the angel investors or venture capitalists to get the project done and to take the startup to become an entrepreneurial activity. So persistence, again, persistence means how long time they will exist. We all talk about the previous entrepreneur vision about Michael Dell, or you can talk about Dhirubhai Ambani, or talk about Narayana Murthy, or any other person, even Mark Zuckerberg for Facebook. So many, so on and so forth. There are so many entrepreneurs, but these are all the entrepreneurs whom we are discussing today because they are all persistent over all the time. You can know about Facebook. WhatsApp has been taken by Facebook, and now it's going on. Now again, Signal has come up. Again, the WhatsApp is again the Facebook is thinking about how to tackle the Signal, because now many of the people have been going to move to Signal, and but not all. Only a few proportion of the people are going to the online app like a Signal. So persistence talk about still now the WhatsApp is existing, and Facebook is working on how to tackle these things, giving features, giving some extra added advantages. So persistence is one of the most important factor of an entrepreneur. With all the different climatic conditions, different situations, different governance, different environmental rise of source or rise of sequences, the entrepreneur has to be persistent and strategic. And how to be strategic, how to take a step one to do the things, and how to become strategic. Because when I started this NFAD, I was only I think many people will agree with me that in a way of in the wake of 2003 and all, and when before that also, the Google is not so popular to have the listing of any of the enterprise. At the time, it was very very tedious because you have to do all the sort of things to publicize your enterprise. Publicizing the enterprise is the biggest task, and the Google hits will be more than 10,000 to get the listing in the google.com. So I have to put all the, because website is also not so dynamic at the times. There are very few dynamic websites are possible, and it's only a static website. So static website is I want NFID to be popularized across the globe. One side I'm an academician, so I'm in different editorial boards so that I can easily do that. The other side, I'm very much aware that Google listing is very important. So Google listing was moving up at the time, and a lot of things are changing in the millennium year. So I was totally into this sort of static website. Immediately, I wanted to promote this website across the nation. That is how the 2003 I was putting the things in the chat windows, in the known circles, even in the abroad journal websites as editor and editorial member. I have put NFID across. So in that way, that listing has happened. The listing is very important. Strategic action is very important in terms of listing. So how the listing happens, so the enterprise grows. Now today, digital marketing is like anything. Digital marketers are available to do the listing immediately, promote your product immediately, promote your services immediately. All things are online. So strategic action is how to go and pick up the righteous digital marketer for supporting an enterprise, or how to promote your flyer in such a way that it's be catchy to get the business. So all the things talks about strategic action. And finally, super competence. That's what is I always say, because super competent is this is my perspective. I'm writing all things on my perspective towards building the entrepreneurial climate for faculties to become enterprising, to teach the students to become enterprising, or to inspire to become a startup owners of tomorrow. The super competent talks more about in working in anticipation time. Working in anticipation is the biggest thing what you have to do, because we are all living with uncertainties. Uncertainties always surmount our own work. Either you have to run parallel with uncertainties or to run beyond. Beyond is not possible. We can run parallel with uncertainties, because uncertainty is totally into the time frame. Anything will happen at any time. That's what is uncertainty. But super competence is one of the trait to entrepreneur, which can be developed over a period of time with a lot of practice. And that talks more about the timely action or working in anticipation of the time. In anticipation of the time, because when we start this program, we have been working for the last 2 weeks, and the OTV team is also working on this line. So promoting the things because you're having short time, so you have to do a lot of things on time. With the on time, that's why you got this many participants. Otherwise, this is not possible. So that's super competence to work in anticipation with the time or with uncertainty to make things happen. For entrepreneurs, super competent is one of the inner behavior. I can say inner trait, which is always present. You can check with a lot of entrepreneurs. They're always cautious on time. That's why I didn't put time as a separate thing, time centrism. I put super competence rather than the time centrism. Working in anticipation with the time so that to gauge everything what's happening. So Druckerian is coming to the creativity innovation. Druckerian views. Druckerian means I told Peter Drucker, he has told something about creativity. Creativity talks about the ability to develop new ideas and to discover new ways of looking at problems and opportunities. Develop new ideas is a very big task for creativity. Ideation process. There's a separate workshop you have to do for ideation because we are now seeding the ideas of FDP and entrepreneurship development. Creativity itself is taking a lot of ideas, a lot of workshop. You can attend a workshop for at least 3-4 weeks. So developing a new idea and discovering the new ways of looking at problems and opportunities. Developing new ideas, innovation. That's what I am trying to say. Creativity and innovation are going parallel. How far your creativity is triggered in your mind, so far you will be innovative. You cannot be inventive. Of course, inventive is always a different domain and platform. One who does, and he cannot be always an innovator. Very rarely it can happen with somebody kind, Thomas Alva Edison and all. Who is an innovator? Who is an inventor and an innovator? He is having his own premises. He produced a lot of things in his own enterprise. In Edison and Co. This is a different thing. This very rarely it happens, but usually what happens is inventor will be somewhere else. We will be developing the new ideas based on a source of invention, and that new ways of looking at problems and opportunities gives a channel to the innovation. So innovation talks about the ability to apply creative solutions to problems and opportunities to enhance or enrich people's lives. Enhance or enrich people's lives means lives talks about socioeconomic conditions. So how the enhancement and enriching the socioeconomic conditions or livelihood of the people talks about the innovation, which will stand for many years. You talk about innovation in the mobile, you can always see the mobile designs, mobile models, mobile accessories are all getting a market always because innovation is always applied there. How best is your mobile? How weightless is your mobile? That is the best mobile. You can always say how best is your mobile. How many features are there in the proportion to weight? It talks about the innovation in the mobile platform. That's what people are doing the innovation. That's why Samsung is in there in the market for a long time. That's why Nokia is also into the market for a long time. There are so many big players are there in the market for a long time. Even Apple is also in the market for a long time because they're all worried about the features proportionate to the screen and the screen size and also the weight of the mobile or Android, whichever they want to do, iPhone, whatever they're creating. Just an example. That's an example to the creative innovation. But actually, there is a principle for this. This is what I have written. On an inventive plane, innovation tends to infinity because innovation is never-ending process. Invention may be a one process that's the end. Alexander Graham Bell, invention, telephone. That's all. That is how, or you can talk about innovation is mobile. Innovation is telephone. You can say remote phones, remote old telephones, trunk calls, all the trunk call devices, and telephone, and then mobile phone, and then Android, and an iPhone. These are all the innovations today. So the inventive plane, innovation always tends to infinity. We don't know what is the next innovations to be possible in the mobile era, in the communication domain. We don't know that. Still, the innovation is going on. We are all now in the, you can say, 4G, and again there are world is totally going on different level of G's, and we are now going to get a 5G shortly, 6G shortly. Already 6G, 7G are all in Europe. So this thing is going on because the swiftness of retrieving the information across the World Wide Web is always a challenge to the mobile companies. How to gauge this thing? How to retrieve the information quickly? What sort of things we have to do in the mobile technology to retrieve the information so that the communication goes on like this? That's the challenge going on with people because Again, world population is also more number of people are coming under the young population. Young population is totally target group for all these companies, and all these companies and the youngsters are all wanting everything at ease, everything at a second, and unless you do innovation periodically, you cannot exist in the domain at all. So that is what is going on. Just an example to you. Some innovation examples like Shimsu Corporation project in generating or lowering, obtaining solar energy from moon to power Earth, 13,000 terawatts of power back to Earth. And that construction could begin on the project as early as 2035. Now the things are going on. Project will be installation will be going on 2035. So if that happens, then Japan becomes the supermost power in the world, or power country of the world. Again, all the power deficit countries, even like Gulf countries, which are going to deplete with their oil resources by 2050, are to be dependent on this sort of action. So 7G implemented in at few European and Asian Pacific countries, research on 10G and novel technology innovation, fostering the gateway for entrepreneurial prospects for numerous entrepreneurs are all in the pipeline. So entrepreneurial challenges today. Today's entrepreneurs have to have this challenge of entrepreneurs or social entrepreneurs, industrial or academic leaders must deal with this periodical challenges like changing workplaces. That is the one thing what now is happening online and live classes. Though the live classes are all started, but many of the colleges are still going on online only. Changing workplaces. Just to understand, as enterprising individuals, we can understand these things, what's happening. We never thought that this thing will happen in a pandemic scenario. That has happened. Now you have to be updated with all the online gadgets, online accessories, online platforms like Zoom or any WebEx or any other Google Meet. There are so many platforms. You have to be well versed with that. There's no other way. And this is the thing. This is change. That's a challenge to the entrepreneurs, because now the education becoming online. There's a biggest challenge to all the faculties also. How to take the class on online on time, because live classes are different from online classes. You all agree with me. So that is one thing. That's and now everything goes on online, becomes entrepreneurs who are under the education sector also to suffer, because they have to give everything on online portals. Equally, ethical and trust issues are also important. When becomes everything becomes a challenge in as an online, trust issues are also important. Trust and ethical issues, which is totally, because now we are all online classes we are conducting. There are so many students are logged in and we are keeping quiet with the video off. That is one issue, because whether we are entering the subject, if they fail, then we are all accountable. So sometimes somewhere or other you have to talk about value education. Somewhere you have to come to the ethical aspects and take a control of it. Not possible to the maximum possible extent in the online portal. Just I'm saying, as an entrepreneur challenge is to how to work on the security issues. Now a lot of entrepreneurs have registered, the pandemic times, because people want authenticity and reliability of any product they want to purchase online. That is why Amazon, Flipkart are doing big business in the pandemic. So global and economic uncertainties and disasters like pandemic, there are so many disasters are going to upcome. How to handle these uncertainties and disasters? That is also a task before the entrepreneurs. Global economic uncertainties and disasters. Fourth one is ever-changing technologies. Technologies never keep dormant. The technology is always into the observation mode. Today's virus is again obsolete, but virus scanning, or you can say virus softwares are all updated every time. We can see all the K7 or Kaspersky or any other virus scanners. They always ask for updates. You have to update the virus in your system or the LT or in your mobile also, because the technology, the new things are all coming up. There's always ever-changing technologies is the biggest challenge for everybody in this world. It's not only for the entrepreneurs, for individuals who are surviving in this world are also facing this sort of a technological challenge. The last one is innovative multitasking. How to do multitasking? This is where the faculties have to be very careful. That is because faculties are doing a lot of work. I never doubt about that. But how many works are all into the smart proportion? Smart and normal. You have to distinguish these two things, differentiate these two aspects. Because we are all doing a lot of work in a given day. On live classes, we are doing a lot of things: academic meetings, academic activities, NAC activities, NV activities, so many activities, placement activities. But the innovative multitasking is one thing to talk about smart and the normal. The smart activity talks more about innovative multitasking. That is, you have to do a lot of innovation. Because if somebody is giving a wrong, erroneous or incorrect document to you, you have to be very clever enough to handle that document also. That then that way, that innovation, intermittent multitasking ability gets developed. That's very, very important. The strategies talk about planning in anticipation to situations and taking conscientious steps for reviving socioeconomic development by central and state governments also alongside academia. For instance, adopting to online business modes, ways, web-oriented, etc. My suggestion is faculties talk more about online aspects in their classes. Take the class, make it live, even though it's online. Make it a realistic class by keeping the challenges before the students. Then talking about only the prospects. Then talking only about the subject on the particular period of time and the period of class hours. Take the subject and relate it to the real world, what's happening. Because subject is always told by somebody else. We are all following it. We are all talking the subject in whatever is our understanding towards the student. There is nothing called a enterprising quotient can be dissolved in that. You have to dissolve the subject. See, in a water, if you dissolve some, you can say agent, a catalyst or whatever you dissolve, that becomes changes the nature of the water. But I will talk about the chlorination of the water. Chlorination is what it is. You can talk about it is uh, pest repellent activity. So you cannot get any infections with the normal water. So that's why chlorination is to the proportion they're adding. Not all of the water is chlorinated. That means we die. So a chlorination like sort of a thing we have to talk about entrepreneurship. Taking the class, that means what you have to do. You have to do a lot of homework of reading so many things in the website. Wikipedia learning is also important. Google learning is also important. And research faculties always they are easy to take their class because they're already into the research. So of course they have to update it themselves. An updated research faculty takes a class in an enterprising way because they'll talk more about technologies, what's happening or going to upcome. As I told you something about example of innovation, I'm just given upcoming things, what's happening. So that talks about what will happen to the power structure, what sort of power innovation you have to do, or what sort of power generation you have to power management you have to adopt. So that sort of things to be taken in class. I'm just giving an example. So mental preparedness or makeup towards impact of current and our future disasters and enabling competitive environment. Competitive environment is very important. Competition is always unavoidable. Enabling a competitive environment, that's what TVA is doing. Enabling a competitive environment to see the to nurture the enterprising spirit among us, the youth and also the faculties. That's why TVAs are working like anything to do this sort of creating the environment. They can give the incubation also. They can support the incubation through some venture capitalists or the advisors or the directors who can provide seed funding to a particular innovation and to make it as a prototype and to make it as an enterprising activity or to start up to become an enterprising activity. They're all supporting. But the only thing is that mental preparedness to make up towards impact of current and our future disasters to be made. We never think that another pandemic will not come. We cannot think that nothing will happen to us. So that means what you're always to be working on with uncertainty. That's very, very important. That's what the people don't do that. They always move towards the next day. Tomorrow never exists. Today is the reality. That's what you have to understand. It sounds philosophical, but it is the truth. Adopting relevant coping styles to reduce functional anomalies and collective interdependency for survival. Interdependency is one of the important concepts for entrepreneurship survival. Today the entrepreneurs are all working on this concept. Even I told so many entrepreneurs as a mentor that interdependency is to be for survival, growth, and sustenance. Because all the time I cannot be available for doing a business at Bangalore or any other place. I can give that chance to the other entrepreneur who is similar to my domain and make them to grow, and vice versa. I can only take the referral cost. So that in a way that entrepreneur is also existing. In a way, you are also your enterprise is also making some small money. I'm just talking on the enterprising level. I'm not talking about a social enterprise like us. I'm talking about the business enterprise. There are two types of enterprises: business enterprise and social enterprise. Whatever I am doing is a social enterprise, and whatever I'm talking today is of the business enterprise. In business, you have to survive. That is very important. In pandemic, so many businesses have been closed, but equally, the service sectors have been doing wonderfully, performing in an effective way. The service entrepreneurs in the pandemic scenario, they are all performing extraordinarily well. Those who are registered, those who are existing, those who are adopted to the coping styles, those who are having this digital marketing, digital transformation, they are all existing. Those who are dormant, those who don't want to adapt to change, they're all totally out of the pavilion in the same service sector. Those who are not registered, just starting an enterprise on some other name and doing no registration, nothing like that, they're coming to the enterprise. People don't want to encourage that because they want authenticity. If you make a mistake, because they're paying money, if they're not getting the money back, if you're not getting the service quality, if you're not getting the quality product, where to launch the complaint? That is important. And creating and promulgating means promoting academic entrepreneurial networks for interdependent survival, existence, and applicable for SMEs. Those who are, because there are some industrial people are also in the advisors to OTB are also sitting there. So these things are applicable to them. So how to the SMEs can foster and promulgate. Academic entrepreneurial network should be there. Introducing scholarship for motivating potential students into entrepreneurial activities by academia, by sponsoring some money to the TBIs, by through this sort of academic entrepreneurial networks by the SMEs, overall functioning as advisors or directors to these TBIs. They can e-sell activities, they can do these things to the students. I mean to say potential students who shows the innovation through their activities. They can be encouraged because they can be the people whom you can create as a future entrepreneurs. Providing incentives or grant seed funding for fostering potential students into incubation activities by industry. That is applicable to again SMEs. Seed funding is one of the important concepts because now the granting rates and all, I am not totally into that, but incentives are also possible, the less possible extent. But seed funding is possible for the individuals to do incubation activities. That is what is IITs is following. The IITs you have TVUs, TVIUs, technology business incubation units, wherein they give the seed funding through the alumni of IITs who are all big players, who are all big entrepreneurs. They have kept money separately for TBIUs and TBI activities. We find the BTech or MTech or PhD student who is into innovation, they always support their innovation through this sort of thing, up to minimum 5 lakhs to maximum 50 lakhs and even 1 crore also they are giving. So that is not possible. Some few money can be given for bringing the idea, bringing the innovation to, place it as an incubation where the venture capitalists can some fund this startup activity to become a startup activity and to become a big enterprise. So creation of user-friendly or not trivial ways by central and state governments to our enterprise registration also and associated compliances to promote business aspirants. Enterprise registration is also important. That is, in one of my area places in Coimbatore, faculty entrepreneurs are also now the new concept is going on. Faculty entrepreneurs in a particular college, they are registering, they are having their own enterprising activity within the premises of the campus, of the academic campus. That is already growing up. They are registering as a company within the enterprise, within the social enterprise, as a business company on the name of the faculty who is doing this enterprising activity. Somebody is rearing the mushrooms, somebody is rearing some plants, nurseries, somebody is rearing something called creating a complementary unit. So those things are all coming under the thing. But the problem is the registration becomes cumbersome. In a social enterprise, they started this activity. I don't know whether the same thing is happening there in Andhra Pradesh or Hyderabad, in Telangana and all. But that is the way to foster, that is to improve the entrepreneurial spirit among us, the individuals and also the faculties. Because faculties, they teach entrepreneurship, they are enterprising. But if they are into the enterprising activity as a faculty entrepreneur, then easily the students get motivated and inspired. So partnering, frequently engaging in online debates, discussions like this, interactions, or conducting and hosting, facilitating workshops, training, seminars, programs, conferences on entrepreneurship, innovation, business management, techno innovation, challenges, and prospects are all the things which can garner the entrepreneurial spirit or garner the entrepreneurial culture, creating the entrepreneurial culture across the academia, I can say, put it across academia to to have this output as enterprising cult can be created through the students, to the inspiring research scholars, inspiring students of this particular academic community. And providing internships to the faculties in academia to foster research and development, entrepreneurship training, teaching and incubation, like what we are doing today. This can be, it cannot be intermittent. It should be frequent. Any training, any orientation, any entrepreneurship activity to be periodical. Because once you do the things, because we are all subjected to interventions. We are all subject to interventions. The interventions are social, personal, emotional. There are so many interventions for any individual, even any professional for that matter. So the interventions have the ability to subside these things, whatever we teach today, whatever you discuss today. So the interventions are unavoidable for any individual or faculty or a professional. So hence for the training should be periodical. Then only the interventions can have the little effect on a particular person. Otherwise, it has exorbitant effect, wherein whatever we teach or train through these sort of programs will go unused, will go underutilized. So frequently interacting or associating with the academia, ESL activities or EDC activities, technology business incubators, entrepreneurship development at institutes, EDIs, industry institute partnerships or enterprise sales, IIPCs or IICs, activities for entrepreneurial visibility and continuity. That's very, very important. OTVI has taken the entrepreneurial visibility across the Telangana under the aegis of Osmania University and its affiliate colleges today for creating that the aspect of aspirations to the entrepreneurship development activities. The fulcrum of this program is to gauge the entrepreneurial talents. That's how the fulcrum is going on. The fulcrum of the program is to gauge the entrepreneurial talents or else institute or induce the entrepreneurial talents for the faculties to promote the entrepreneurial activities, either individually as a faculty or inspiring the students. The problem with the faculty and the student is this, as I understand this as a strategy, the faculties who teach this on entrepreneurship alongside the subject are not totally enterprising. That is one drawback. They are all stereotypic with the subject area, subject teaching. That is not enough. And the problem with the students are all, they want everything at ease and they're all not wanting to understand what is the entrepreneurship at large. Finally, the one fine day they have to get into this thing, either 3 years or 5 years, because no job is permanent. No career can be built on a particular job which you are aspiring to become, that you become, but it cannot fascinate you. Fascination is important. And students today are lacking in fascination because they are all having a lot of interventions on the digital era. So they want everything at ease. They're not fascinated towards one thing. Their obsessions towards the enjoyment and entertainment and not towards the business prospects or business cult or becoming an as a entrepreneur, self-employed, which is the need for the hour, which they're not understanding. They thought that somewhere they get a job. That is not possible with the population, with the humongous population of 50% under the youth category, which is more than 20 crore under the category under the age group of 12 to 25 years, because competition is FT in a country like India, and only the survivor exists, vulnerable washes out. That's how it goes on. So finally, my slogan towards entrepreneurship today is entrepreneurial slogan. My great concern is not whether you have failed, but whether you are content with the failure is told by the former president of the United States, late Abraham Lincoln. But my concern is very simple: fail to learn success. The amount of failure, whatever you face in your life, that is the learning the success, how to be successful. I am trying to be successful. I have learned a lot of, even I have got a lot of failures until now. That means I am learning from every failure, so how to become successful, where the mistake has happened, what sort of learning to go on, what sort of things to strategies to adopt to overcome the failures and to make to see success in one way or the other. So everybody is aspiring for success, but you have to see a lot of failures. Once you see success at the first instance, and if you see any failure in the later instance, later point of time, in the antecedents, then you will be having a problem of collapsing yourself. The one who sees success always see a small failure, bit of failure will be a disaster to the person's life and they cannot come up. So that's why fail to learn success is the proverb of mine, slogan of mine. That's how I become a social entrepreneur today. So entrepreneurship development, by and large, the growth and prospects goes on like this. The e-learning and updating socio-commercial and socio-environmental aspects for business development is very, very important. I suggest all the faculties to teach a sort of a business development activities on the particular subject alongside your mainstream curriculum which you are teaching. What is the prospect of this particular subject? Why you read the subject? Is it a customary practice or it is going to be useful aspect or component in future, whether you're opting a career on entrepreneurship or any even as a enterprising career in any company or organization? That is how the subject we taught. This is how totally is in the hands of faculties. This FTP is going to trigger the entrepreneurial spirit for the faculties to become enterprising on the skills and to become a vibrant enterprising faculty to gear up the entrepreneurial domain in their particular respective disciplines and their colleges. So whenever you teach a subjects, okay, subjects are all power management, anything, electronics, electronic communication, civil, all subjects, all engineering and non-engineering subjects, arts and humanities, sciences, paramedical sciences, medical sciences, all sciences. Finally, the end result is what? Socioeconomic development, socio-commercial, socio-environmental, and to bring the business development community. So what is the business in it? What is the aspect of commercial aspects and social commercial aspects and social environmental aspects hidden in this particular subject? When you read the subject, what will be the outcome? The outcome is very important. And when you teach the outcome, then you should be very strong in teaching the hardcore domain of the subject. So engaging and or participating in ESL, EDI, TVI, and TVI VC activities. Faculties have to participate. I mean to say, students are the next level. When faculties are in ESL activities and EDI activities or TVI activities or IIPC activities, students by default they know. Because if you are to participate in such an activity, you should be, your R&D should be very strong. Unless you are a hardcore researcher or a hardcore scholar in a field, you cannot engage in this faculty, in these sort of activities, because you have to find something new. You are writing papers, no doubts, but paper is also again become a stereotypic aspect in the recent times. How many people are writing a paper in a scientific way? That is again a question mark. So scientific way means a new innovation. We are all writing papers on existing results, whichever is left out in our previous research works. Very few are routing the, I can say 30 to 40% people are doing the current research activities across the globe. Not only I'm believing India. So the research, whichever you do, the amount of volume of literature you study and innovation you do in your research, that talks about the engagement in the participating in the ESL activities. You can debate on, talk on that, and create an incubation activity by your own self. So TBIs are already existing. Many of the academic activities are all having the TBIs. Universities or even colleges are having the TBIs. But how many TBIs are functional is depending upon the faculty's contribution in the innovation side, incubation side, alongside students through their patents, through their activities. All those things are all counted here, accountable here. And registering and documenting enterprising activities is also important. As I told you, faculty entrepreneurs have to be promoted. So TBIs or the universities or the authorities here, they can think about it seriously. How to make a faculty entrepreneur possible under the aegis of the institute or the trust or the society of the particular affiliate colleges or under the Australian University. Collecting e-database and maintenance for future prospects. That is how this today's things are happening. Collecting e-database is also important for doing such programs in future and have prospects in that. Interdependency for enterprise growth and sustenance is always a must. Those who are aspiring to become entrepreneur should know what is interdependency as a conceptual level. Sustenance is very important. With the growth alone, we cannot prosper because growth is there. One fine day, there is a new policy on curtailing a growth, then you'll be no more. Your enterprise will die. How to have the sustenance as a strategy and social media awareness and understanding the business promulgation activities. As I told you, social media awareness is very important for an entrepreneur. Like the visibility, entrepreneur visibility is important based on social media awareness. What's happening in the social media marketing? What's happening in the LinkedIn? What's happening in the Facebook, Instagram, Telegram, Signal, WhatsApp, everything, even Waze. There are so many apps like Waze and all there are all for digital marketing. So many things are God's and the person to be aware about these things. That's very, very important. And understanding the business promulgation utilities. Utility is important. Finally, it all comes on the utility point of view. Understanding the business promulgation utility, how which social media marketing I can do for what sort of business promotion, what sort of color and combination I can use and the flyer I can choose for catching the customers, attracting the participants, attracting the consumers, whichever the way. So learning and adopting digital marketing methods and techniques for survival and growth and prosperity. That is why we kept an exclusive session on digital marketing prospects. So that is one thing which people don't know about digital marketing. That is how this marketing changes the entire prospect. Today, whatever we are doing, today you can see the flyer has been prepared and it's across to the people. Long back when you see the live program and all, we make a small brochure and send it to people. Now today we made a brochure and we have subsequent flyer for this joint FDP, national FDP, and it is gone across the people. And you can see the digital marketing. You can see the online form is scan, copy, QR code is there. You can do the QR code and immediately pay the money, and it registered. So this is how the fastness, the swiftness of doing things, and also putting the digital marketing method is attractive flyer. Something like people have to be attractive seeing the flyer, even brochure, whatever you do. Those are all things what we have done in this sort of program. So that's how we are going to speak these things and all to you. It's very easy to preach or to perform. Unless you perform, then only you have preach. Right, to preach. That's what we have performed, and we are preaching or professing these things to you. So I think these things to be taken seriously across all the verticals of the faculties. Equally, the research scholars who are aspiring to become enterprising faculty or becoming an entrepreneur, and also the college have to think about creating a faculty entrepreneurs and to engage them in the ECL, EDI, TVI activities for the future ray of hope. Entrepreneurship development is possible on a holistic way only, not on a unanimous way. Anonymous way is TBIs are already there. E-cells are all, if you take individually, you can see these are all the anonymous methods. But there is a connectivity because E-cell activity is not always talking about incubation. E-cell is only creating an entrepreneurial cult, entrepreneurship orientation. So E-cell is what to say, entrepreneurship development cell. But before that E-cell, there should be something called, you can talk about TBIs. All the things are linked. TBI and E-cell are linked together. E-cell is promoting the potential enterprising skills, skill development, training, all those things. On a soft skill side, it happens. On a even technical side, it happens. Finally, these technical skills and soft skills, hard skills and soft skills put together, evolved in the person to make an incubation possible, and that incubation comes under the TBI to look for the funds, to provide a seed funding through the venture capitalists or the vendors or the angel investors or the funders or the financial institutions to garner this incubation and to make it as a startup activity, to make it as a bigger enterprise. That's what is the mantra of doing these things. That is very simple. But what we will do is we always confuse the cell with the EDI or the TBI. EDI is only Enterprise Development Institute. Like EDI is in Ahmedabad, and EDIs in Bangalore or even Hyderabad. So these are all the institutes, EPIC institution by Gujarat State Development Industrial State Development Corporation and IDBI jointly proposed the EDI proposal in 1967. In 1967 onwards, it's existing, but it can only give an idea. That's EDI is giving a workshop funds or promotional funds or DST sponsored 14 weeks, 14 days program or 3 weeks program. All those things they give, but it has to be happening through the e-cell of the particular college, which should be functional based on the already they should do all those activities to get this funding. And this e-cell activities should create a possibility of innovative product such that product can be taken to the TBI. TBI will look for the funds and to make it as an entrepreneurial activity. So that is a chain of linkage. We talk about it. That's why entrepreneurship is by itself, it's a holistic discipline having contributions of all disciplines. Similarly, entrepreneurship emergence, entrepreneurship development is possible with the holistic involvement of e-cell, EDI, TBI, and IIPC. All those things together possibly is the entrepreneurship activity is possible in a particular academic institution or university. So these are all some of the useful websites for information on entrepreneurship. You can see the websites, and it's just a glance. You can see to that. So with this, the upcoming session today of the session 2 is entrepreneurial mindset and ecosystem for promoting entrepreneurship from day 1 today by 4 o'clock, 3:55 p.m. Day 2 session creative design thinking. Associate Professor Dr. Meghna Chabra will be handling that. Day 2 session 2 pre-feasibility studies, identification of business opportunities by Professor Dr. Mary Cherian. So these are all the upcoming sessions of the FTP today, and questions and You can contact me for any facilitation queries, because basically NFID is into a lot of activities dominant to creating the entrepreneurial cult across the nation and globe. And we are into research and development, entrepreneurship development, management development programs and trainings, and incubation activities, ESL activities, and publications, and also consulting, and also into the recognitions through award ceremonies, and having the business facilities forum to consult the entrepreneurs and mentoring the activities across the globe. And thank you so much for the patient listening. You can note on the set of this fast and upcoming NFID events through the nfid.business.site. And now I throw the floor to questions. You can type your questions. I keep answering your questions. Thank you so much for the time. I think I completed well before 4 minutes of the time.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor. Participants, the floor is open for questions. You can key in your questions in the chat box.